Hey, this is Notser, and we're taking a look at the Tier 6 Premium French Destroyer, Aigle. We're on the map Trap, and I'm making this video partly because I want to cover Trap. The changes are important, but also I want to cover this ship more. I still receive a pretty good amount of comments. What do you think of this? Is it worth it? Well, you can earn it two ways. You can earn it through the French campaign missions to get the containers, all that stuff. If you get 18 of those, you get access to the ship and a 6-skill commander. You could also buy it, which it's a tier 6, it costs tier 6 money. And my build is pretty straightforward. The only thing I would warn you about, this really needs expert marksman, and that means you're going to invest 12 points in it at least. Why not just get it first? Please do not overlook Last Stand. Don't be one of those DDs. Last Stand is so important, it should be baked into us. Having said all that, if you bring the right build, if you take advantage of his strengths, I'm used to she, if you take advantage of the ship's strengths, it's a pretty good experience. So it's got 139mm guns, the last small caliber before the rule becomes incredibly punishing. Expert marksman, basic firing training, advanced firing training. You do not want 140mm guns. 139 is great. 140, not so much. I wouldn't take advanced firing training, though. Advanced firing training is probably bad in this. And the reason I say that, gun velocity. This is American-style gun velocity. It requires you to be crafty, take advantage of islands, take advantage of smoke, don't overextend too hard, and use your torpedoes whenever you're given a chance. Maybe an enemy is approaching you, and the combined close distance of both those ships would allow for the torpedoes to actually hit the target without revealing your ship. Having said all that, let's talk about what I was looking to do in this ship. So at the start, I want to take advantage of the speed. I wanted to get over to A point. Yeah, I know, A point bad. Ooh, don't go A. A point is completely viable, just like every other objective, if you take advantage of the windows that are open. We almost, keyword, almost found a window where we could take advantage of it. Clearly we didn't, and the enemy stopped it, and it's a DD who's stopping it. Now, I was never detected. I chose to pop my smoke to do a little bit of damage to the King George. There should be a DD somewhere, and I intend to hunt it. Why? Most of the enemy is not on this flank. If they were, they would be spotted by the friendly aircraft that are overhead. Most of the enemy seems to be near B and C. So I feel pretty confident. Considering the King George is retreating, I could potentially wipe out the enemy DD, and there's really nothing he can do. So I'm going to work my way over to the west side of this capture point. But I do need to set my guns up. This is not some American where it rotates in 3 seconds, or Pan-Asian for that matter, because most of the Pan-Asians are Americans. You can't take advantage of this ship like that. You can't go into a scenario without a plan. Much like the other ships. The other ships, you could get away with it, and the plan was sound, except for the enemy was on the other side. Somehow, he stayed out of vision for me, vision for him, and he went to the northern side. I don't think he was there. I think he sort of started out west and then came back. But who knows, right? I interpreted that because the aircraft flew right over that island, that area, never saw smoke, never saw anything other than the King George. That's my expectation, was that the DD could not be there, and yet that's the first sighting. So I sent my torpedoes. 7 kilometers, by the way. 3 per torpedo tube. It's better than the Soviets, but that's not saying much. It gives up a lot to everyone else. But people underestimate you, right? People don't underestimate the Japanese torpedoes on their damage. They underestimate the detectability because it's awful, right? People do underestimate German torpedoes starting off, and that's where we're at now. We're at where the torpedo systems for the Germans is actually the best part of it. So this is somewhere in between that underestimated design and the Soviets, where it was just completely useless. You will get strikes, you will do damage, but don't rely on it. It is not a part of your strategy. Your strategy is to get into a good gun position first. So we capture A point. Clearly that means the enemy DD retreated. I've got my system set up. I expected these battleships to come forward, and lo and behold, we run smack dab into the Gajamada. And I'm going to fire on him. Every salvo is probably going to do 2,000-3,000 damage. You will kill DDs very, very quickly. This is like anti-DD DD. I've got cruiser level of health with survivability expert, and I've got insane damage output per salvo. It's very Soviet in that regard. So, do a little bit of chip damage, enemy DD pulls back. You'll notice how quick we actually stopped. In response to this King George, I pop my smoke, and I'm just going to harass this guy with my shells. Great fire chance, and great damage per salvo. As you can see, it's really impressive. The shells have, you know, good accuracy. I don't have any complaints from the standpoint of this not performing its role. It does exactly what I expect it to do. He puts out the fire, and that means he's going to be vulnerable. So if we can line up our salvo and get it right on the superstructure, we should, cross our fingers, get another fire, and he'll have to burn for a while. And yep, there we go. And people are focusing the target down. So A point hasn't changed about trap at all. Nothing about A point is different. It still has the same approach. Same radar ships want to hide behind the island and ambush the targets. You want to consider who could possibly attack you from your position. You get the idea. Friendly sends torpedoes and gives me a heart attack for half a second. King George's going to die. 100% going to die. And I notice that there's smoke out here. There is an enemy DD in between me and the King George, which would kill him. And this is either the Kiev or this is the Gajamana. Well, I think I could take both of them. Quite frankly, I don't think there's any chance for either one of them. 1v1, 1v2. That's how confident I am in this ship. And conveniently, we're close enough that I can use my torpedoes. So I'm going to angle to send my torpedoes. It is only 3 torpedoes per launcher, but it is 2 launchers. Better than some destroyers. And we're just going to rapidly move over to their location. Very quick. Only the Soviets are faster. So you will run people down. And what can they do? You got better gun system than them. The only thing that you're going to take is more damage to bring all those guns to bear. And it looks like our torpedoes worked out. And I love the commentary of the Kiev. He was like, crap. Obviously, I'm censoring it. Yeah, you're dead. You couldn't do anything, man. Hey, just outplayed there. He was in a position. He should have expected it. He didn't see me, though. And that worked in my favor. The last position that he saw me was at the corner of that island when the King George saw me. Other than that, he had no idea I was approaching like that. I didn't fire my gun. I wasn't greedy. I intended to ambush him, and that's exactly what happened. And it can happen very quickly with the French destroyers and the Soviet. I hope the French are more of this because I really enjoy this. Others don't. So we're approaching B point. B point is weird. It's got a lot more open islands for people to escape, but you still have players that want to play it the same way, where they sort of camp behind the island and just engage 1 or 2 targets at a time. No problem. We can oblige this North Carolina. Gonna pop my smoke, gonna confirm that it's actually taking effect, and I'm gonna fire my guns. And my guns should start setting the target on fire, doing tons of damage. Everything should work out. I know this target is completely vulnerable, and as long as I place it on the superstructure, no issue whatsoever, and we get a fire. Can't really complain. This is not the weak point of the ship. The weak point is maneuvering left to right, the low amount of torpedoes, low range compared to others, except for Soviets. The length of the ship makes it difficult to play with torpedoes. You have to expect that if you're going to camp and smoke or camp in something like that, torpedoes are going to come your way, and you have to predict it and move out of it. But with this velocity, easily fire over the island. Easily fire over the island. And he's on fire. He's not enjoying himself at all. Hopefully friendlies can get some torpedo hits on him. This is what I love about Americans and British and French. They seem to allow players to get in a position where they're not seen because of the islands, or they have the ability to use smoke, comfortably attack the target. They can play the objective. They have reasonable concealment. 6.8 is okay. It's only beating the Soviets, but it's okay. You know, you're not gonna win any rewards, but you're so fast that if you take stock in the enemy who's approaching it or near it, you could conceivably rush down the enemy DD that's trying to stay stealth on the capture point, and there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. You just brought larger guns with more firepower. Friendlies do take out that North Carolina, and I'm just going to rush forward. I tell my team, hey, I'm going after that DD. No mercy for the DD. But this game is so over already. There's nothing that could happen that we would lose this game. AA protection's awful, and that's cool. But DDs are really what win games objectively, and this is like the hunter-killer of DDs. It is so scary. I don't want to be on the receiving end of those guns. I think I've won every single game I've ever played in this ship. And I've played probably 10 all total. I don't remember exactly before. See, so what they do for community contributors is they give us a fake version of the ship so it doesn't affect stats. And then when it actually is launched, they give us the real version so it can affect stats. And so far, my average is 2 kills per game, 2,300 XP. And I've done probably 60, 70,000 average damage. Sometimes you get lucky, you get a good torpedo strike. You know, someone's approaching the smoke that you're sitting in. I do feel like these torpedoes are good defensively. I can't complain about that. But it's got a little bit of that American. You know, it's not purely Soviet. It's got a little bit of the American, and I like that. I think it's an interesting approach to design. I can play a little bit of this playstyle, a little bit of that playstyle. Call me crazy. I'm just attracted to different variety ships. I don't like ships that play like other ships. I don't like lines that are just carbon copies. I like that the Pan-Asians have ridiculous smoke. It absolutely influences the way you play because you always have smoke, right? Pan-Asian torpedoes are really powerful against battleships. The gun systems are okay, and their gun velocity is American. So you do give up on range, but you can sit in smoke and fire forever. You can use your torpedoes. Different playstyle. Then you have the Japanese that are completely different. Germans who are completely different. Soviets are basically like cruisers. I like that. I felt like with the British, they didn't really have an identity that was unique enough with the single launch torpedoes. I think that if the French are this style, then I'm going to be attracted to it and I'm going to continue enjoying it. Plus, for those of you who have the time, it's a free ship. Who's going to complain about a free ship? It's really hard to dislike that. So 2 kills, 1900 base XP. The Leander did a great job on the other side of the map, by the way. And we're the bottom tier, so we can still contribute even at bottom tier. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.